Welcome for tonight's session. Good evening, good night, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're coming from. Welcome to our advanced trainings. Tonight, we have a special guest, and I'm really excited to actually have a chat with him. He's one of my favorite humans in Healy, if I'm honest. I have met him personally in Sydney, and we kind of clicked together. We were a bit naughty in Sydney, but he has enormous amount of knowledge. So tonight we're going to do a presentation of Gene Keys and also an I Ching scan. But without further ado, I would love to give the floor and the stage of this beautiful online training tonight to Mark Bentley. And he is a Gene Key ambassador and a lover of Healy and one of the co-leaders for Australia and New Zealand. And I am really excited of what he has to share tonight. So I'm giving you the floor, Mark. So please go forward, and I'm really looking forward for tonight.
Hey, thank you, Petra. And thank you everyone who turned up today. In fact, 64 participants right then as we started. And I couldn't think of a better way to start than the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching in your I Ching database, the 64 hexagrams or gene keys, and the 64 codons in our DNA. Really it's a beautiful synchronicity and a great way to start. So, well, first of all, I'd like to say really welcome, a deep welcome, and take a moment to really arrive together. And I'm seeing your beautiful faces in the video. So thank you those that do open the video. It's always nice to feel that connection. That it's not just us speaking to the ethers, but are others having trouble with my audio? Or I see one of us, is audio levels okay with others? Okay, seems a couple might need, okay. I tell you, I'll just tweak a little bit. How's that for the others? Just in case. All right, we'll go with that. You might just need to turn your device up, depending on what that is. A little more, please. All right, we'll give it a crack. Let me know if it goes too high. How's that? All right. I think these moments, Petra, are kind of like really important for those real juicy sessions where you go deep. There we go. We've got it. And the vision that I always get, I think in images, is of like a cat. The cat when it gets comfortable, it crawls up on your lap and it kind of claws a little bit and it hurts a little. To me, at the start of all these sessions, there's always that little bit of a niggle, a little bit of tech issues, but we made it.
I always call it butt adjusting, when the cats go on your lap and the butt adjusting, right? So where they're going to put their butt. And it's really funny. It's really funny while you're talking about cat before we go in, like this is a story I want to share. Is really funny because we actually had a Meg Healy in a space with a friend of mine, and this cat literally, we ran a animal harmony, and this cat literally sat on the Meg Healy with her legs apart with her whole butt and wouldn't move for the entire program. And the dog wanted to get into the Meg Healy, and she would just literally push him away. And then at the end of the Meg Healy program, she turned around and actually meowed at Meg Healy. And I was like, okay. So obviously she was communicating with that machine. But I would just literally had that vision when you said, the cat adjusting. But yeah, it is always a bit of a tweaking, especially online. So the audio is much better now. Everybody hearing really well?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's begin. One of the things I'd first love to just ask, a little bit of input from those who can hit into the chat there. I'd just love to know if any of you have had experience with the gene keys before, or if this is new to you, and also human design. Maybe you're into human design, because the I Ching is actually related to both those systems incredibly deep. So just give me a bit of a vibe. Great. We've got some new people. Excellent. Excellent. The recording will be available, and so we'll give you a little teaser before to have waiting for you at the other end of your flight. All right, fantastic. So we've got a little bit of a spread of everywhere. Well, I've got a little presentation here, which we're going to jump into now, which will essentially just give you the history of how this all came about. And then after that, we're going to move into doing a demonstration where Petra has a volunteer where they'll do a scan and show you how we can use the Gene Keys wisdom combined with the Healy to really give you a very modern, easier to digest contemplation around what is going on in whatever your attention is and how to really pull the gift out of it. So, as mentioned, my name is Mark Bentley. I'm here in Perth, Western Australia. I've been working with the Gene Keys for about 10 years or so and started with human design before that and with the Law of Time, Mayan Dream Spell before that, which is what the synchronicity brought me through all of these different systems. And I've had the blessing of traveling the world working with Richard Rudd and the Gene Keys publishing team in different retreats in Romania, in America, in different places. And I come at all of these kinds of work, whether it's Healy, Gene Keys, human design, any form of tool in a sense, from a place of experiential knowledge. To me, it's one thing to learn it, but it's another to actually take it out and put it to practice. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years of my life, is taking everything I've learned from these systems and actually walking the talk and seeing how do they work? How do they really come forwards? And so one of the things that I'm very passionate about with is Healy. This frequency device that we have since 2020, it has been such an asset to support the Gene Keys work and all the other work because it allows me to be in a more cohesive state. You know, it helps deal with the stress so that you can think more clearly. And that in turn makes working with these systems so much more effective. So for me, they're a match made in heaven. So with that, let's jump in. We'll start this presentation and let you know the fairy tale of that I Ching database that's in your Healy. All right, there we go. So I think I've got my screen balanced. Hopefully everyone can see that screen share coming up okay? Yeah, fantastic. All right. So the I Ching, it's a database that is in the Resonance app. So the Heal Advisor Analyze app, where you can go in and choose databases, whether it's the Alaskan Gem Elixirs or etc. There you'll find the I Ching database. And the story of this database begins around, the legends say, around 5,000 years ago in ancient China. Here, there we go. And so they would say that in the I Ching essentially translates to the Book of Changes. It's often what you'll hear it referred to as. And it is a guidance system, in a way, an auricular system that was used by the emperors and the rulers of the ancient times to find their way through turbulent transformational moments in history. So whenever there was change happening in their kingdom or empire, they would use the I Ching by either flipping coins or drawing straws and finding ways to create what they call a hexagram. And the hexagram is this black, you see these black lines, they're feminine and masculine. The two lines that have the gap in the middle, which they kind of call broken, but not broken, but just that the line is not solid. And then you have solid, broken, broken, broken in that hexagram there. These are the hexagrams. They are the foundation of human design, Gene Keys, the I Ching database, etc. And they would use the coin or the straws to create these hexagrams that would then be the symbol that contains the key to discovering how to move through the change that is underway. So that's where the I Ching database is such a potent database to use, is setting an intention for any change that you're going through in your life. And then it will bring wisdom as well as frequencies to support. So there are 64 hexagrams, so 64 combinations of these are possible. And let's move to the next. And here, moving forwards many, many years to when the DNA codon wheel was discovered. So in 1953, the wheel on the left is something that you would see in a biology laboratory. So if somebody was doing working on DNA or genetics, then they would reference a DNA codon wheel. And this is looking at how the proteins and amino acids all come together to create these different codons. And these codons then instruct the body what to do. So this codon wheel is essentially the language of our DNA. And the one on the right, the I Ching wheel, which is a little bit hard to see because there's a lot of fancy stuff on the outside, but just focus on the inside 3 wheels. The first thing you'll notice is that the patterns essentially are the same. There are quarters that then split down. Each one splits down to quarters again, and then each one splits down to quarters again. So when you break out the I Ching, it's made up of what we call doublets. These doublets are, for example, 2 solid lines, solid broken line, etc. All of this is just interesting information that you do not need to know right now, but just giving you that kind of vibe of seeing how when you build an I Ching hexagram, it's built in the same way that we build the DNA codons. So this is where we begin to see that in 1953, we started discovering the relationship between this 5,000-year-old system and how it relates to our DNA. And so that right there was pretty mind-blowing for me when I really conceptualized what that meant. So let's take this story a little further. So I did used to have a slide here for human design. Ra Uru Hu was the one who received a transmission in Ibiza many, many years ago. I believe it was 1987, if I'm right. Maybe someone knows and can confirm in the chat. But it was around 1987 that human design landed on this planet through a man known as Ra. And he received these physics, these mathematics, these data and these details that then showed, he was told how to relate that codon wheel to your birth time. So it was when we first started being able to take this map of our DNA and actually understand how each of us are uniquely coded as our vehicles from the imprints of the galaxy and the space and the stars and the planets, etc.
Mark,
So this then moved.
Mark, sorry to interrupt, but I can see in the chat that people can't hear properly. So I can hear you okay, but is everybody else hearing Mark okay? Yeah, okay. So
if someone is still not hearing me, then maybe it's just if you can crank your volume up to full. It can be a little tricky between everyone's different volumes.
Okay, it might be locally with the people that were saying, because majority is okay. Okay, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to double check.
Okay, let's see. All right, Petra says they can hear you better. I'll turn up a little more. How's that? Not too loud for everyone? We're good? All right, we'll go with that. All right, so thanks, Petra. So coming back to the story, Ra brought human design in, and Richard Rudd, is who the first recipient of the Gene Keys transmission, was actually one of the leading human design teachers back in the day. So he started his work with human design and did a lot of traveling and exploring of the human condition. And it was in 2002 that he began receiving and synthesizing his own experience with the voice that was handing this transmission over. And Richard will tell this story. You can see there's lots of podcasts online at the moment that are quite fresh in YouTube, where Richard explains the experience. He actually woke up in a heightened state. So he woke straight up into this heightened state and spent 3 days without sleep, basically going on an adventure around the UK, discovering these secrets and information and the rest, that then helped him synthesize and what became known as the Gene Keys, which is this big book back here. Now, Richard, one of the things that I love about this man is he is a genuine, humble human being. He doesn't put himself up on the stage as a spiritual guru, but rather he is a genuine bard. You know, he is an English poet. His accent is a delight to listen to and a mystic, but he's also a father. And he really lives what it means to take these higher transmissions and concepts and walk the talk in that sense. And it's been a blessing to know him. And he's been a real mentor for me through that process. So the core essence of the work of the gene key sits in this, what we call the frequency band. So every gene key, every one of those hexagrams relates to a codon in your DNA. So an actual part of your DNA. And the frequency you are operating at essentially tells the DNA what expression to have. So you have the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi. So you can think of this as the shadow, and the shadow is essentially our survival mechanisms, right? The shadow frequency is in our DNA, is the program that keeps us alive. You know, it's through those deep kind of memories of our traumas, our parents' traumas, our grandparents' traumas. They help inform the newborn child of dangers that might be in the environment. So these shadows are actually important. They're protective mechanisms. You know, for example, greed in the time of the cavemen, greed would have been probably important because if they did not have the resources to feed everyone and they tried to be very, saintly and split it between everyone, we might not have made it this far. And so in the past, there was a need for certain shadow frequencies to make it through evolutionary points of our time. The challenge is that our current marketing in the world uses fear, thanks to Freud's nephew. Back in the day, many of you will know that story, I'm sure. And what we have seen is that our economics and etc. are shared through the lens of fear. They make you feel like you lack something and then sell you a solution in that sense. So this has had a byproduct of now triggering the fear response all around the planet 24/7. Anyone who spends time on social media and in these different places, fear is what politics are using rather than convincing and good debates and good conversation. It's kind of fallen to this place. And what that is doing is triggering off a lot of our shadow frequencies, our protection mechanisms. And so the idea with the gene keys is it allows you to understand more deeply the function of your shadow, that it's actually here to be of service, not something to be ashamed of or to get rid of, and rather put it in its right place as your protector that can sit back out and not interfere with life unless it's really needed. The gift frequency, so when this same, and again, this is an aspect of our DNA, as we relax, we begin entering into the gift frequency. The gift frequency is where the karma of life really gets transduced. It's where our life experience, our shadow gets imbibed with this light and goes through a transformative process and how we evolve our consciousness and evolve our perception of reality. And so the gift, as you can see here with the kintsugi bowl, the Japanese art of repairing bowls, broken bowls with gold, is very symbolic of this process, of this, that the planet right now we are all going through, is we are going through this kintsugi. We have all been broken in a sense in the world. And when I say broken, it's divinely broken. In a way, it's part of how we break down and explore and put back together again. It's almost like a childlike impulse of the gods to constantly evolve this higher nature into the world. And so the Gene Keys offers us a framework to be able to perceive that brokenness through a different lens where it doesn't feel broken. And we realize that nothing is broken, that all of this actually holds a gift. That in all of your shadow, there is a gift. In all of your life experience, your traumas, your challenges, everything, there is a gift. And in order to get that gift, we need to make space to digest the process, the emotion. Because without processing the emotion, it gets stuck in our DNA until it eventually flares back up when we least expect it. Whereas this gives us a framework to understand what might be getting in the way of my intention, my creative impulse, so that I can heal it. So that I can not try and ignore the brokenness, but rather turn that brokenness into beauty and part of my art that I'm here to express in this world. And then we have the higher frequency. So in a way, you could say the shadows are really reflective of our past. Our gift frequencies are really reflective of where we are at right now as a collective. And the siddhic frequency, which is when you see a Gene Keys profile, it's the word at the top. That is the enlightened state, the future potential of our humanity, of these frequencies. So in that sense, the siddhi really represents, if you can get yourself a Gene Keys profile, which is free. And if you look at the siddhi words, the words at the top, they are essentially showing you the script of your enlightened state, the potential that is in your DNA. And that enlightened state is essentially when your DNA relaxes, because DNA tightens when you're under stress, literally tightens. And then as it relaxes, it begins to open back up. And then it begins to shoot photons into the world. And you begin to glow. And so the idea is that the more we can come into peace and oneness with ourselves and our role in this world, the more we can be the light that shines to the world. Our Siddhic state, our Siddhic nature begins to come out. And so, as we said, there are 64 hexagrams in the I Ching database. They relate to these 64 gene keys, which we call the spectrum of consciousness. It's a little bit small, especially if you're on a phone or something there, but I'm going to show you a resource after we do the demo of where you can see all of this and more and use that for your readings. But I just wanted to show you here just an example of the 8th gene key and how this frequency band works. So if you have the 8th gene key, or the 8th gene key comes up in your database scan with your I Ching, then that is saying that this theme of the diamond of the self is deeply resonant with your intention that you set while you were scanning, the transformative process you were going through. And then it would basically be, yes, you vibrate it with the database, but then you can also take some of these keynotes, some of these aspects from that specific hexagram. You just look up the matching gene key. So this is the 8th hexagram, and contemplate those words. And together with the frequency, they will work together to help unlock and relax your body and your DNA to allow your gift frequency to come forth. And then that naturally creates a pivot in your life, a shift in the way you perceive things. So an example here with the 8th is the diamond of the self. The 8th is really all about unique expression. It's about beauty. It's about allowing your exquisiteness to be seen by the world. Because we did not come here on this planet, on this time-ship Earth, for us all to be hiding our light, pretending that we are not special, and just putting the light everywhere else but us. We came here to light up our DNA. We came to be, and the way that you light up your DNA is by opening up to source and allowing a higher bandwidth of consciousness to move through you. And that then lights up your DNA, that becomes a radiant beam for the world. And right now, moving into 2024, the world needs more lamp holders out there, shining the light on the way back to self, so that we can meet each other in our own diamond self, our uniqueness. And the shadow of the 8th gene key is, if you don't trust in your environment, then that aspect of your DNA that is responsible for your style, it will tighten up. It will shut down. And what it will do is it will cut the light off and create a frequency of mediocrity, right? Mediocrity. Just fitting in, sacrificing your unique style so that you blend in as a defense mechanism. It's a survival mechanism, right? And so the idea is that if this gene key came up on your database scan, or it's in your profile, like your purpose, then it's a deep contemplation of, where are you hiding your light? Where are you sacrificing that? And then what does your unique style look like? And then as you contemplate this and vibrate the frequencies, the idea of the gene keys is it's not about telling you who you are and what you should be thinking about this, but rather they're a set of keys that if you jiggle them around in the lock of your DNA through the art of contemplation, then that is what will bring up the wisdom that's already in you. And that's why I became an ambassador and dedicated my life to this work. So how does this work? Well, this is something that I dare say many of you have come across. It's the science of epigenetics. It was the moment that we discovered that we are not controlled by our DNA. Until epigenetics really started coming into the world through the scientific method, the science understood us human experience being a slave to our DNA. What we have come to now understand is that the way we perceive our environment informs our DNA of how it will express and interact with that environment. And note that I said how we perceive our environment. Yes, there's things out there that are hitting our body environmentally, etc. But even that, through the simulation of consciousness, in whatever form you want to express it, on the quantum layer of things can be questioned of how real that even is. But your perception is the one thing you have control over and that you can work with. And the reason this happens is if you think about it, you can get all these senses, so you can see danger. You might see a tiger, right? Now, when that goes into your brain, the image of the tiger is not fear, it's not danger, it's just a tiger. But when it goes through your eyes into your brain and goes through the filters of your conditioning, it gets assigned whether it's safe or not, dangerous or fun, playful, whatever it might be that your brain is conditioned to think about a tiger. And then it triggers off the emotional response and reaction. And so one person may see the tiger and be terrified. Another person may love animals, tigers, and wild animals, and maybe a wild animal themselves, and get exhilarated. So through the same experience of a tiger, both people have completely different hormones released into their body and a completely different genetic internal response. And so the idea is that Gene Keys can provide a framework that in turn allows you to reframe how you are perceiving your environment. It is incredibly potent in discovering where we have these outdated beliefs and survival mechanisms that are triggering off danger when actually there might not be any. And in turn allows us to become more relaxed. And I love this image, and I wish I knew who to attribute it to. So if anyone ever does find out, let me know. But this image, it is such a beautiful visualization of this process. And you'll notice this, how your own family may see the world as one thing and you see it as a completely different. This is how different our perspectives of reality can be. And so the Gene Keys are all about helping us look through the lens of love and connection and meaning. And in the end, we are meaning writing machines. We get to write our meaning. We have the authority. We are the authors of our experience. And the Gene Keys I see as essentially a script or a framework that can help support you in the process. But in the end, it's you who gets to do the work. And just on the last part, from a Gene Keys perspective, working with the Gene Keys, you can work with it in infinite different ways. But the way that we generally guide people and teach is through the hologenetic profile. There are certain sequences: purpose, partnership, and prosperity. And they're designed to be gone through in a specific order, like cracking a safe. By listening carefully, cracking these different aspects of our DNA, because without grounding in purpose, which is really about the physical body, it's very unstable trying to ground our emotional body in the Venus sequence, for example. And people often want to create prosperity in life. I want to be rich. I want to make this money. I want and for all good reasons, a lot of the time. But if you're not grounded in your emotional body, and if you're not grounded in your physical sense of purpose on this planet, it becomes very difficult to prosper in a holistic way. So hence, it all starts with purpose. But this is where the fun part starts. So we've just had a little background, so I hope that's landed with everybody. And you got a good general vibe and feel for what the Gene Keys are and how their hexagrams are related. And so what we're going to do now is Petra will bring on a volunteer. I'm going to share in the chat there the link to, where are we? This one here. So I'll pop that in here. So I've just shared a link to the Living Library. That is where we are going to visit as our reference guide. And I will screen share and show you through it after we've done the scan. So you don't need to worry about that right now, but just so that you do have that link to the Living Library. This is the mecca of Gene Keys, information that's free and easy to available. If you want to go deeper, you can get the Gene Keys book. There is Oracle cards. The Wisdom Keeper Oracle cards are amazing. There's lots of different resources you'll find online. People have written amazing blog posts. So even just chucking in Google, you got 13th Gene Key. Just put in 13th Gene Key and see what turns up. And there's some contemplative material to go with your database scan. Well, that's my presentation. I hope that went all right. Petra, how are you doing?
Just connecting my phone and Healy together. This was amazing, Mark. I love how you put things together, and how things make sense. And I love the contemplation part. Like this is my favorite thing because I feel like when I've been studying astrology before, like as a hobby, but sometimes we can go to someone and we put our power into other people's hands and we kind of believe what they tell us because that's their perception and how they see something. And that's why I love the exploration part and the contemplation part, is because it gives the power back to us. It's we are the one that actually understand who we are. And if we actually take the time to contemplate and go within, we would have the answers right in front of us, right? And I love that part. Let me just connect my Healy because my Healy Blue app didn't want to connect with me. And I will share my screen so we can do a scan. We have a beautiful volunteer today. Lorraine, are you here? Can you let me see if you can, no, you can't unmute yourself. Let me try now. Try to unmute yourself. Lorraine.
Yep.
Oh, here we go.
Done.
Welcome, Lorraine. So Lorraine has
Thank you.
Asked to have a scan last week, and I've offered for her to actually participate today. And if anybody else would like to do that in the new year, please let me know as well. We would love to have volunteers because this is for you, right? It's not about scanning myself or Mark, it's for you, so you can actually understand it. Okay, so let me just go and share my screen of the phone so we can actually connect things together. Okay, do you see my screen, the blue app that's connecting? Is everybody seeing that?
We see your desktop.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, how do we do this? How do we do this? Okay, this one. Now you can see my phone.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Okie dokie. Wrong window. Too many windows. Okay, let me collect Lorraine and we can actually scan this. Okay, so we can go, right, Mike? Do you want to talk or do you want me to share where we go to IG?
No, absolutely.
Lorraine,
Petra,
I'll just unmute you in the meantime, Lorraine, so we have the sound. Mute. Okay, so in the Healy Blue app, yeah, we have different options to choose from, and the I Ching is actually in the purple circle, which is resonance database, and we can either go in here where we find the list, or we go to the plus sign, and it will literally give us the whole list of whatever we want to scan. We had our Schüssel salts here as well, so it's in the same category. That you can find it. So it's the I Ching 64. So that's the one. Mark, do we want to just scan right away and then just go into the interpretation? How do you want to do that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say, yeah, just to do a scan, and the intention essentially, Lorraine. So as we're doing this scan, it's think of where you would like support in some form of transformation, some form of change. Whether it could be financially, wanting to move from where you are now to somewhere else. It could be personal relationships, anything under the sun. The I Ching is really all about where am I now, and what, in a way, it's like homeopathics. Which gene key, which hexagram is going to be the most supportive for me to contemplate to move forwards into where I want to be. So if you want to scan on that, Petra, and then after that, I can take the screen share back and show people what we can do with it. And we're just taking the top hexagram.
Yeah. So Lorraine, just take a deep breath, focus on your intention, what Mark was saying, and I will scan the I Ching. Here we go. Mac, do you want to go?
All right. All right, Lorraine. So, did we want to share what the intention was? Or would you like to do that, Lorraine?
Yes, my intention was to be present more in all avenues of my life because I feel like I'm hiding a little bit, you know, and I wanted to be able to grow and be a bit more out there. Yeah, just be more present and stuff, yeah, and grow.
That's a beautiful intention. That's a beautiful intention, Lorraine. And I mean, we can see straight off the bat. So we will work just today. Let's work with the top one for simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
We do obviously have multiple keys down there. But one of the things that I usually recommend when working with gene keys or anything is simplicity, not to overcomplicate it. We often want to have all the ingredients at once, you know, and it's like pizzas in the Western world. You know, you go to Italy and they look at the way we make pizzas and they think, what are you doing? You've got like 3,000 things on there, you know, so we'll keep it simple, starting with the top one. And as you can see, the traditional I Ching language will be there. I think if you go to a report, you can open it up, but we'll leave it here. Just that desired state alone, you can feel how that is resonant with that intention that you shared. Symbolizes progress and growth and indicates that a time of personal growth is coming. So already we're seeing that the one that came up is saying, you know, it's approaching this new phase of your life that you're feeling to come out more and be out. And so now what I'm going to do, so all we need to do from the scan now is remember 19. So anyone else who's playing with us at home and you're scanning yourself or you're going to scan soon, just that number, see where it says 19 or 5 is the one under, that is the number you're writing down. Then, so now we can actually put up, actually, why don't, Petra, while we're doing this, if you want, you can start vibrating that frequency, maybe for the next 5 minutes or so, and that can go in the background. So Lorraine, you'll start receiving these frequencies that are going to be supporting from the quantum side of life. And then what we're going to do now is give your mind something to hold on to, something to play with, that you can then also approach that transformation from the mental place, from the emotional place and the physical place.
And Lorraine, I will send you the PDF of this one so you can actually go and contemplate in depth later on. Yeah, if you wish to. Yeah?
Yeah.
Mike, you said, what, 6 minutes?
Yeah. Just whatever you reckon while we're doing this part. That should be good.
Oh, here we go. It goes up. And I'll take my screen off so you can go and share.
Yeah, beautiful. And so just a note to everyone that whenever you leave that blue app and you come back in, you often do need to just connect your Healy again when doing a scan. All right. Perfect, Petra. So now while that's going, Lorraine, you're getting some of that love. I will once again just post this living library link into the chat. So this is where we're all going. I'll get the screen share up here. Let me get that adjusted right. Here we go. Okay, so this is known as the Gene Keys Living Library. There's lots of free resources on this website. Richard Rudd is one of the most generous human beings on the planet, and the team likewise are sharing so much with the world. So you can go in there, you'll see resources where you can find more and more readings and things to take your contemplations even deeper. But for now, in the Living Library, what you do is you scroll down and you're going to see here, navigate the 64 gene keys. So this is where we find the number that turned up at the top of your database scan. And there'll always be a little random key here, which is a nice oracle way if you just want to go straight into pulling an oracle card. But we're going to go for number 19 for Lorraine. So we give that a click and that'll open up. All right. Are you nervous, Lorraine?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. I think all magic happens with a little bit of nervousness. All right. So the first thing we can do is there's always going to be a quote for every gene key at the start. Now, what I want you to think of this as, Lorraine, is that your experience right now is like a cauldron, right? Your life, you yourself are a cauldron of life experience, that all of the things happen during your day up to this point are inside that cauldron. Your emotional experiences from childhood leading up to now, they're all kind of boiling and bubbling, right, away inside yourself. And so these gene keys are like spices that you add to the contemplation. So what we're looking at here is something that you can drop into your now, along with these frequencies and your intention. So relating it to your intention about stepping up more into the world, to hide less and show yourself there. This is a contemplation to bring in. So the shadow of this gene key is codependence. The gift is sensitivity. And the city is a really interesting one. It's sacrifice. And these are deep contemplations. This is a powerful key, this 19th gene key. And so the quote is something that you can take into the day. We all do and say things that hurt others, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. Sensitivity is an art we all need to learn. When we've learned it, we feel so strong, so connected to life, but we also feel so permeable and soft. So this is not saying because you scanned it that you are in the shadow, that you are hurting people, that's not what this is, right? But what it's doing is giving clues that you're throwing into the pot to contemplate. And so it's like the key to all of this work is curiosity. It's about being curious. Okay, so rather than looking at it like, well, that doesn't look like it's part of this, rather go, how is that related to this, right? Because in the end, the truth is hiding in everything, including a pile of dog poo if you know how to read it, right? We live in a fractal reality. So the key is to be curious. And so when I look at this, the first thing that comes from this is the message about sensitivity is an art we all need to learn. So to me, this would be saying that the process you are going through is going to be deeply connected to mastering the art of sensitivity. Okay. Now, having danced with these keys for a long time, and because I also do one-to-one sessions, if I was doing a session with you, Lorraine, and we were talking about this and I saw this key, my first thought is, one of the reasons a lot of people hide themselves is because they are very sensitive to the reactions and responses of those around them and the world. That in bringing yourself out, if you are a deep empath, it can be challenging to deal with what comes back at you, in a sense. And then, so my question would be, well, how does codependence relate to that shadow pattern of hiding myself? And codependence is all about relying on something outside of yourself for something to be okay, in a sense, right? It's about relying on another in order for you to be in your power. So can you see how this key that's coming up is really speaking to, as long as you are looking outwardly for approval and acceptance, and to say it's okay to be you, then that's still a form of codependence. It's still relying on the outside. And if you are moving in looking for that, then that sensitivity will really feel it. And it will feel hard, it'll be painful. But remember how we can shift that perception when we realize, that's what that is. Okay, well, I don't need to do that. What am I relying on? It's my higher self, my higher being, the voice in my heart that says yes. That's the one I want acknowledgement from, right? So straight away you can see that there was just a little dance with the very first piece of information that we could use. And how has that landed so far, Lorraine?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I can sort of picture that in different parts of my life. Like, a sort of, that could be a part of my life with family. I need to be more sensitive to what they believe, and I'm not always right. And I don't mean like with children or something. It's like with adults, with my brothers and sisters and things like that. It's very interesting.
Lorraine, that's actually a deep insight that you just shared right then as well. It's a powerful one and a hard one sometimes for many to get to.
Yeah, it is.
Right? We often feel like we're the sensitive ones, But in that, we can actually become almost narcissistic with our sensitivity, that we forget that, well, hang on, everyone's got their journey, everyone's got their beliefs, everyone's got their thing that got them to that perfect moment. Maybe I need to be more sensitive to them and to listen, to hear what's going on there.
That has been awakening for me. That is something I've been feeling recently.
Beautiful. Well, beautiful. So it seems like the keys already got some clues for you there. And so then I would say you take this away. And the idea with the Gene Keys is we're not done yet. The idea is now that you go away, you take that with you. You take that contemplation, that thought of sensitivity. What does that mean? You could read the Gene Keys book if you've got one around you, or get hold of it. There's got a whole chapter on the functions and how these things work. There's lots of stuff online. 19th Gene Key. You can look at what others are saying in their blog posts.
I will.
Or you can just sit with exactly what you just shared and just hold that and just reflect on that tomorrow and the day after and the day after. Because we often keep changing, wanting to chase these insights. But an insight starts as a mental aha. And then when we allow it space, it drops into the body as an emotional pivot. Because once we mentally understand, oh, hang on, we can emotionally pivot the way we approach our family, the way we approach those around us. And then once we begin to lean into that feeling of like, okay, I've shifted my emotion, mental aha, I now emotionally understand this insight, then it has to go into the body and become an embodiment. So one insight actually goes through these three powerful processes we often don't realize. And a lot of people spend their time in the mental, talking about, oh, I am this, or I've got this key, and that's why I do this, and that's why. It's like, great, it's awesome that you know all these things, but until it becomes an emotional and physical embodiment, it's just a party trick, you know? And so going on a little further, this is where you can find more contemplative material. So again, we just played with the very first bit. So for all of you watching, whatever that top key is, hexagram, look for that number like we did here. You can do similar to what we've just done. You will see the shadow, the gift, and the city for the 19th here. It comes with, you know, lots of little keynotes and things like, for example, the future human being. So now, Lorraine, you've got an extra little advanced contemplation you can throw in there. So what does that mean I am evolving to through this process that my family are being awakening catalyst for, right? How does sensitivity look in a future world, right? And so a lot of people, you know, if you have to rely on your government to keep you safe and look after everything and protect everyone from getting hurt, then that means we're still in the shadow of codependence. And so this is like a real stretch of the imagination. So these are the kind of things you can do, is just contemplate that and then watch what happens in your body. Watch, because this is a living transmission. The Gene Keys are alive. They're in everything. And that's why it's not the Gene Keys or religion. The Gene Keys or the Gene Keys can adapt everywhere. It's your genetic language. It's a language of light, in a sense. So all of these are contemplations. You can see, for those that are into astrology, you can see here it's in Aquarius. You can also see the degrees of where it is in the astrological charts. This Gene Key is active during that time. So that's really for the astrologers here. You can see the victim pattern. So victim of oversensitivity, which can lead to either the reactive shadow. So shadow patterns have two ways. They're either reactive or repressive, meaning you either punch them out on the world or you punch them into yourself in a way.
That's it.
And yeah. And so you see here, one you've already kind of keynoted, the isolated.
I isolate. I withdraw.
Yeah. And so when you sit there and go, oh, so why do you withdraw? Because it's too much oversensitivity. So now there's a reason. Yeah. Right. And this is where often people lead to, addictive tendencies and behaviors, because they can help dull the sensitivity, and they can help dull the pain. And it's that thing of like, don't get obsessed about the addictions or the behaviors that are trying to dull the pain. That's just medicine you're trying to use to cover something. Rather than beating yourself up for that, find the root cause. And once you find the root cause, that shifts everything else. So you'll see on the left, some of the more I Ching related, the approach, Earth over Lake. So if you're into the I Ching, you can get some of your juice there. You've got the codon ring of Gaia. Now, the codon rings are very mystical. There's something that is going to come in the years to come. There'll be a lot more information around them. But the codon ring is essentially, for example, the ring of Gaia. 19, 60, and 61 all are interrelated. We can see this through the way they turn up in your DNA and the way they're connected in your DNA. So the codon rings are essentially how the codons relate to each other in your body. That shows us a lot about how they relate to each other in existence. You can see the amino acid that's related to it. So isoleucine, or however you pronounce that. You can see the physiology, body hair. So that's a really interesting one. And Lorraine, you have just given me, through this experience, a little insight of my own, because I've never paid attention to the fact that body hair is related to the 19th. But it makes sense because it's our sense organ, right? You know, it's and not only have I obviously lost a bit of body hair, but on my legs, I actually noticed the hair patches, you know, where it disappears for bits in areas. And I've been using the Healy on and off and not really gone at it. But now it's almost like it might have been oversensitivity of my own that I lost that hair to try and lose the sensitivity rather than internally shifting my perspective and being better prepared. So I'm going to take that contemplation away with me. So yeah, and as you can see, more keynotes we've got. So codependence, sensitivity, sacrifice, the great change, the whisperers, the fifth. This is related to the book chapters. So this is the kind of stuff it talks about in the Gene Keys book. Again, I Ching. If you're into the I Ching, here's some more keynotes directly related. The astrological information directly related. Service to self growth through expansion of consciousness. You can have a look at the programming partner. So every gene key has a matching equal and opposite that kind of works together to bring the balance. So the 19 and 33 are programming partners. So again, it can help because they're always part of the same coin, right? Two sides of the same coin. So maybe forgetting who you truly are leads to a feeling of codependence. Which is, you know, so this is how you can play with it, right? If you're into human design, there's a little bit of integral human design, tells you where that gate is, where it's connected in which center and the rest. And my favorite, the dream arc, which is where logic gets thrown to the wind and intuition is invited. This is the feminine guiding us. Leading by the feminine is through the dreaming. And this is where you can see that for the 19, the fear key, so the key to understanding the fear that leads to that codependency is the tarantula. So if you're struggling with codependency, then spend some time learning about the tarantula, watch its behaviors, see what goes on with it. And there'll be some secrets hidden in its behavior and its way that it is that will teach you about dealing with oversensitivity. The life key is the camel. So if you want to then explore that, we can sit in the camel. And then the vision key is the pelican, which is the highest frequency. So the shadow, the gift, and the city. So you see how there's so much information here to be juiced up. And we have only just touched the surface of this work. And of course, there's the 64 audio contemplation. This is a paid thing, the audio contemplation. Everyone gets their life's work key for free when you get the free profile that you can listen to on the same page as your profile comes. But if you want these, they're just a couple of bucks each. You can get, I've got the whole collection long ago. That actually is like, this one is 18 minutes of Richard Rudd, his personal contemplation around this 19th gene key in that frequency band. So these are one of the many ways that you can go about discovering more about what came up in your results. So how did that land, Lorraine?
That is just so interesting and really made me think. It really made me think inwards of what it's fascinating as well. Absolutely fascinating. It makes me want to go and do it now. I want to go and, I want to go and learn it. It's really fascinating because, like you say, we only touched on it and it was, some of those things that you said and some of those statements that were there were like, I can yeah, it just related to a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Very
for being
interesting,
willing to
Mark.
come up and
Thank you
to
very, very
be
much.
vulnerable.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Beautiful. So
Thank you,
Petra,
Lorraine, for opening up your heart and, your life to everyone. And I
That was
love this because I feel like we put labels on good and bad, right? What's good in the society, what's bad in society, how we behave and how we do things. Of course, there's certain things that are not appropriate, but at the same, well, not respectful, let's say it that way. But I love this because it brings in contemplation from within, and it actually it gives us an opportunity to explore us, who we are, on a quantum level beyond our physical body. And I literally just got an inside vision, Mark, when you were saying that tarantula is the shadow part, right? And I'm like looking at that, and I'm like connecting body hair, tarantula. And I remember when I was little, I had tarantulas in my hands. Like I used to like hold them a lot. And they're a really fascinating animal, and they're really gentle. And the hairs on their body are actually, they can sense things meters away through their hairs. And I was like, that is insane. The connections that I was seeing on there, I was like, oh my God, this is a superpower. Like, this is a huge superpower. I get goosebumps. Look, hairs. And something that actually dropped in, Mark, I don't know how, because you have more experience on this, but when you were saying body hair before, I was thinking, when we get goosebumps, like for me, that to me is reading the environment around me. This is how I literally kind of communicate through my energetic field. And my body senses through the goosebumps and the hair is actually helping me to set boundaries. So that's something that dropped in. I don't know how you are feeling on that, but that's just something that helped me with oversensitivity, and using that as a superpower with tarantula. That's kind of what I connected for my own contemplation, which was fascinating, which I really, really love. I don't know how that lands with you, Mark or Lorraine, but that's kind of what came through for me. Um,
I'm
Lorraine,
just
how do you feel
fascinated.
about
I'm just fascinated. And I know I've changed a lot in the last couple of years. Not necessarily for the better, but I've yeah, I don't know. I've gone through a lot and it's changed me. And I'm just here like reading that, and it's sort of I could relate to so much of it. I could relate, and I would love to know more. It's absolutely opened the door for me. I'm very excited. I just can't thank Mark enough, and yourself, Petra. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
I'm
And
excited.
I would love to know how everybody's feeling. I can see comments, wow, like wow, 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 in the comment section. And Mark, thank you for, sharing your knowledge and your contemplations and the tools and everything with us. And I think this is something that this is what I love doing, is empowering people, right? Because it's sharing the knowledge and understanding ourselves is what brings us not only closer to ourselves, but closer together in the community. And imagine if we all contemplate on this, and if we would actually present and express this into the world, what a world would be. This is kind of my dream. I know it's idealistic and futuristic, but I would love to see that in the world. Definitely. Okay, so before we go, let me check some questions, if there's any questions on things, and then we will let you go. There was a question in between, Mark. Um, what was a question for duration? And let me find the question. There was a question. Where are you?
there was one there, I think, on how long and how often to vibrate.
Yes, correct. How many times I can use the analysis and vibrate to a person in a day at what interval of time?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I don't think there's any wrong way in the sense of working with this. The body, as far as I'm aware, will it won't get bombarded by the frequencies. If anything, it'll just stop listening if it's got enough of the thing in that sense. But I've tended to just, and maybe even Petra, you'd know this better, but I've tended just to use the kind of 2 minutes 56 or whatever that one is, just morning and night. If I'm working on something like Lorraine, you've got this intention, then I would either just do it in the morning, or in the morning and evening. I find is quite powerful bookending, because remember, when you're sending those vibrations, yes, it's giving a signal to your body through the quantum field, but you're also consciously telling the universe, I'm serious about this change. I want this to be a change in my life. So simply by even going, because it's that little bit of a, even though it only takes a couple of minutes, there can be a resistance sometimes to doing it. So just, I would recommend, what can work good is morning and evening, a couple of minutes of vibration. That being said, listen to your intuition. Really remember that the Gene Keys is not, and everything in the I Ching is not about a right or a wrong way about doing anything. It's not about morality. It's not about any of these kinds of things. It's about creating a framework for you to discover yourself. And the best way to do that is to play and to explore. So really listen to your intuition. See what feels good. Sometimes I will do that and I'll have it going for an hour while I'm doing something. Or maybe I'm having a session, or maybe I'm doing something else. I'll just have it in the background running, maybe while I'm doing that, whatever that is. I know sometimes I've had things going all night, and other times I will just, so my fallback is, aside from intuitively doing what you like, a couple of minutes morning and night is a great kind of starting point if you want somewhere to start in that sense. And I also saw here, Petra, we've got Michelle Lee sent a message. Healy gives 5 results in the I Ching. Do we only read the first key or all 5 keys? So again, Michelle, this comes down to your personal choice. I recommend just focusing on the top one in the beginning. Now, if intuitively, for some reason, a number is screaming at you to give it attention, then go for it. But the reason I recommend against reading all 5 is that's a lot. That's quite a lot of conceptual information to be bringing together. And in the end, we live in a holographic universe, meaning that the truth of everything is everywhere. That we don't need to look at all 5 keys. We just need to get one and jiggle it. And often, the contemplation to me is jiggling the key through contemplation, right? Through just holding it lightly, thinking about these things, letting them move in your body. And then what happens is eventually, those old keys that you get in the old houses where you got to kind of jiggle it, you got to pull it back and forward a little, and then eventually you get it. That's contemplation. That's the Gene Keys in a nutshell. You're taking one thing, keep it simple, and bring it into your everyday life. So anyone that says, I don't have time for the Gene Keys, you're doing it wrong, because it's meant to be done in your busyness. You take this little bit and you bring it into the busyness of your day and just hold it. Don't try to fix it. You don't try to change everything, but you just, and what you'll notice is things that used to trigger you will they'll still trigger, but there'll be a part of you now that's holding that key that goes, hang on, I see what's going on here. And over time, the reaction backs off until it's no longer even there. And it's done simply by holding and just jiggling those keys in our inner locks.
That's beautifully said, Mark. I actually wanted to add on that. You see, every scan that I do, normally I do contemplate on things, but the I Ching one, it's really interesting for me because it's a completely different energy in the body for me. I find it as not so much streaming and moving, but it's literally like opening up the doors. So it's like the frequency moves through the body and it's like opening up the doors. And when I'm opening up the doors, so what I normally do when I do the I Ching, and this is great because now I'm going to go into it deeper, which I love. But the way I was doing it before, which was more basic, the way that it felt is I was literally taking the scan and I was looking and reading through it. And I was looking at how that presents in my life. And while I was vibrating about 3-6 minutes, I was actually setting intention, and it felt like I was opening the door into my space of my infinite possibilities. And when I was going throughout the day, meeting people, situations happen, all this information now comes in, and I'm now like bringing things together that I've never seen before. So this is how I feel when I do the I Ching scan, and how I feel in the body, in the energetic body. So which is really different from Schüssel salts or anything else that I've done, which is actually moving the energy through the body. This is kind of opening up the space, which I love, which is like an invitation. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, and how you feel it in your body. I would love to invite you into actually exploring that part of yourself as well. But before we do, I do have a question. There's a Joanne here, and she's asking, I just ran an I Ching scan for myself. It only came back as a percentage rather than a number. So that would be a strange thing, Joanne, because normally the percentage is at the top, and the I Ching number, it's before the, I can actually show it on the phone. Is that correct, Mark, right? Because that's how I actually saw it.
Yeah, I would just make sure that you are using the new Heal Advisor Analyze 2 app, because I noticed quite a few people I just discovered recently were sticking to the old one, worried about bugs in the new one. But the old one is incredibly buggy, and the new one has been relatively rock solid for me. And if you do have any problems with things not turning up in the new app, then reinstall the app is a quick way, but also just send a customer support ticket in, because sometimes it's the actual back end of the databases maybe just need a reset, and customer support can organize that.
Yeah. So the number is at the top. So you have the 19, and then you have the percentage underneath, and then you can see still the I Ching, and then going into Gene Keys number here. So this is how it should be, and this is the blue dot app, which is this one. So next to the pink one, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. So this is a pink one, and this is the blue one. So you can see the top. Yeah. So this is what you need to have. If you don't, then I would recommend resetting the app or something else. Okay, there was a hand raised, and I'll just go through and see if there's any other questions. Who had the hand raised? I saw a hand somewhere. I don't know where that was. Okay, did you see the hand as well? Because I saw it. This is amazing. This is cool. This is awesome. Do you use the same scan and use for a few weeks, Mark?
Yeah, beautiful. So I was just answering similar one in text there to Bernadette, but it's basically the way I usually work with this is we don't need to continually rescan with Healy. I mean, part of that, if you think about what the intention is between rescanning, like for example, if you scan someone and they go, oh, we'll scan again, I want to check it. Your intention has just shifted immensely from whatever my original intention is to now I want you to prove yourself. Two completely different intentions, different frequencies, different vibrations. So intention is really important, and keeping it clean. There's no need to do multiple readings. What I usually say is scan again when either your intention has changed of what you want to work on, or you have felt a change within your own inner being towards what you are working on. So if you feel, oh, something's kind of changed, like maybe I'm feeling a little more liberated in whatever I was working on, well, scan again, because maybe now there's a new key coming up that will take you that next step further in a way. So that's generally what I would suggest.
Beautiful. So there was a question about how do you vibrate just one key? You can't vibrate just one key. So there's only a whole list that you will vibrate, but the way that I might be mistaken, but Mark will correct me. If, like he said before, right? If there's truth in one, there's truth in everything. So the frequencies and the vibrations in energy, there is no separation. There's no boxes, right? So everything connects, right? What Healy does, it literally just places the priority of certain frequency at the top, and that frequency is more needed in that space currently. But that doesn't mean that the other frequencies are not connected together with the top one. That's how I see it. I don't know, Mark, maybe you would add on that.
Yeah, what I will add on that is absolutely what you just shared, 100%. And what I'll add on to it is I am super keen. I actually gave to Mark Boonzanier when he was here in Perth a copy of the Wisdom Keeper Oracle deck and whispered in his ear saying, listen, sooner or later, I would love to see a collaboration between Healy and the Gene Keys. And because I personally would love to be able to just say, I would love to run Gene Key 43, right? 43, it's my life purpose, but it's also the Gene Key that's responsible for epiphanies, insights, and breakthroughs, right? The creative rebel, busting open those limitations. That's everything for me. And I would love to be able to run that frequency, just that one, while I'm doing my creative processes. So for me, I hope we can do that one day. And I'm working on it subtly in the background, just planting seed. This is another seed towards it. Please do send in support tickets as product suggestions. Say, hey, we would love to be able to do this with and have a Gene Keys partnership. Let them know, right? And I'm going to be in Vietnam in January with the corporate team there. So I'm going to be seeding it even further to try and get them to do it. But one day, my vision and my dream is to have Marcus Schmeeker, the creator of Healy, sit together with Richard Rudd, the founder of Gene Keys, and talk. And I can sit logically and think what I want. I see it, Vanessa. Absolutely. We're going to make this happen. We're not going to make it happen. It's already happened. And together, all of you that have come here tonight or today, whatever time it is, you've all just helped make it happen even more. We're feeding it this energy. Obviously, people are enjoying it. So I'm excited for when we can vibrate one at a time.
Beautiful. I'm excited for that one, Mark. So there's a question, how do you go and see the details of the number? You can't see the details of the I Ching number in the Healy, but as Mark gave you the live library, you can actually use the same number and pop it into the Gene Key library and go and contemplate that deeper. Yeah. Okay. The recordings are always shared. You have them in the emails as well as in my Facebook group. 23 hours running, vibrating, that is your choice. Try it. Yeah, like Mark said, go with your flow, go with your intuition, see what happens. If you feel like it's too much when you get up and you kind of overloaded, then maybe try less next time. Yeah. Maybe. Or try it again, like my partner, like he doesn't listen. So it really doesn't matter, right? So it's your choice, your body, your life. You are the master of what you're doing. Yeah. Just have in mind that, like Mark said, this is what I'm passionate as well, is we are so taught to give our power away and always ask others what we need to do. Let's start sitting within ourselves and start really contemplating what works for us, right? Because nobody else knows us best. We are the one knowing ourselves if we actually allow us. Okay, any other questions that are like full on right now that needs to be answered? Raise your hand. If not, I would love to thank Mark for this beautiful presentation and for your knowledge and for your share. And for coming on to the sessions. I love having people here, so it's not only me talking. And I love learning new things as well. This is also a part of my heart. And thank you everyone for coming and staying. Okay, Brigitta, is it Brigitta? Brigitta, did I pronounce that correctly? If you want to quickly ask your question before we leave, and then we're going to leave you, so we're not too late.
Yeah, sure. Hi. Yeah, I just want to know the email address that the recording will be coming from, because I couldn't find the email address for the Zoom.
Yeah, so the email.
So I assume it'd be the same one.
So the recordings are always coming first through the Healy Corporate APAC newsletter. Yeah, so if you go into your back office, under your profile, you have an option to actually opt in or opt out to communication. If you opted in, you're receiving Healy APAC newsletter, yeah, like monthly. Yeah, that's the same email that the recordings will come through. The recordings are only sent in one email at the end of the month for all the entire trainings of the past month. So if you don't want to wait, you can. We can't actually share the recordings within the Healy Facebook group for the compliance reasons. So I have saved them in my personal Facebook group. So you can actually ask to be added into that group, and all the recordings are in there. You can also ask questions if you need to later on. Every material that I create through the sessions, through the training sessions, is in that group as well. And I will share the link here so you can actually join the group if you wish to.
Great. What was your name again?
My name is Petra.
Thank you. That would be helpful. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I know your first name. Yeah.
It's okay.
What's yours? Still coming, is it? The link?
Obrigado. I'll just showing for you and everyone else as well that's keen
Yeah.
for the replays and where they come from. It's really important, I feel, if you're a Healy member and you want to make sure you're getting, because they've got a lot of good emails coming out now. Down here is what Petra was talking to. You see communication, opt-in and opt-out. It's under user profile, contact info, and it's just in here where the address and number is. You will see communication. Just make sure that that is opt-in. So everyone watching tonight, if you want to see the replay, log into your back office. You click the little person icon in the top right next to your name to get the profile open. You click contact info to get to this page, and then you go to communication, make sure it says opt-in, and then save it. And that is how you can make sure you will get the replay of all the email with all the replays in it.
Thank you, Mark, for sharing that. I didn't share the screen before, so thanks for that, for jumping in. And also, again, I would kindly ask you to not send your emails through the chat or to me personally, because I will not send you recordings directly. So please, these two options are available. Whichever works for you, please choose that one. Unfortunately, I can't, and I'm not able to send the recordings individually. And also for the reasons of personal data protection, I can't do that. Yes. So make sure that you organize yourself to actually opt into the newsletters of Healy Corporate, or ask to be joined to the Facebook group. If you have Facebook, all the recordings are available in there and they're uploaded. Yeah, so if you have questions, you can always ask things in the group. There's always people there to support you. And if you tag me, I will always answer the questions. Yeah. And Mark, I think you're in our group as well. So for this training, if there's any other questions, Mark will see it as well. But now, without further ado, this is the end. If there's any other questions, that will be in the Facebook group. We will help you and support you. But thank you, Mark, for joining me. Thank you for sharing. I am honored for you to be here tonight. And thank you, everyone, for coming and staying over the hour. And I wish you a beautiful night. Next week, we have the last training, and it is the finishing touches of the emotional part of this month. With the new year, we are moving into new beginnings. We are finishing the Blue Dot app, and we're starting the journey new. And then we're moving into the pink app and to the physical body. Yeah, so we're kind of diving deeper. But thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a great night, and I'll see you next Thursday. Have a great night. Bye.